Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Poetry Thursday, in which a dedicated cadre of BookTubers talk about poetry or read you poetry every Thursday. Uh, I have been doing this. I made a project out of it last year, and I'm now continuing it this year in one particular anthology, which is going to be hard to show you because I know why you're watching this video, and it isn't poetry, and it isn't me. It's the adorable little dog sleeping behind. So we'll move this over here. You don't mind if I block Sasquatch. This is 20th century American poetry, a big anthology that we're going through poem by poem. The only poets, the only poems that I've skipped have been from, I think, one poet who wrote in dialect. I don't know why anybody ever does that, but I realized right away that nothing would be served by me reading you a poem in dialect. So I didn't do that, but everybody else, yes. And with it, the anthology has turned out to be very, very good. There's nothing that can stop it from what's coming. No matter how good a 20th century American poetry volume is, it's still going to be slouching towards Bethlehem to be born. And we all know the year, and we all know the person, and we all know the poem. And that's coming. I may even read the whole thing out loud. The poem that strikes the death note of poetry as a viable literary genre for ordinary people. But we're not there yet. Instead, we have to deal with other aspects of a big anthology. We've seen a whole bunch of them. Sometimes the editors of the anthology will have a particular poet that they've always kind of liked. They want to include it, even though they want to include that poem, even though the poet really doesn't measure up, really shouldn't be in a big anthology. Also, there's the case of currying favor. There's the suspicion always, was the poet who you're anthologizing a teacher of yours, a mentor of yours, maybe a benefactor of yours at some point or other, or of your benefactor. We hit one of those today. We hit actually a combination of those two things today. A poet who should not be in this volume, except that this poet was also a poetry editor and also the editor of Poetry Magazine. There's never been a good poet, a legitimately good poet, who was the editor of Poetry Magazine, but they get invited to every literary soiree. They have FU money, as the saying goes, and up and coming poets need to curry favor with such figures. And if you take a figure like that we're talking about today, who was not only the editor of Poetry Magazine, but also held academic posts, that's going to be tricky. So you're almost not going to find any value there. The poet involved here is John Frederick Nims. If you don't know that name, that's all right. You shouldn't know that name. This is a literary footnote. Probably should not be in this volume, but we're gonna read one poem anyway on our march towards the inevitable. This is not the inevitable. This is a poem that is recognizably a poem, and it's recognizably about something. It's called Dedication, : Love Poem. And it's from 1947. Rather telling, when you get an academic, an editor, an important tastemaker figure in an anthology like this, rather tellingly, most of the selections you get from such a figure will be from before there were any of those things. Nims died in 1999. So we're getting a poem from 1947. Anyway, here it is. My clumsiest dear, whose hands shipwreck vases, at whose quick touch all glasses chip and ring, whose palms are bulls in china, burrs in linen, and have no cunning with any soft thing, except all ill at ease fidgeting people, and refugee uncertain at the door, you make at home. Deftly you steady the drink clambering on his undulant floor. Unpredictable, dear, the taxi driver's terror, shrinking from far headlights pale as a dime, yet leaping before red, apoplectic streetcars, misfit in any space, and never on time. A wrench in clocks and the solar system, only with words and people and love you move at ease. In traffic of wit expertly maneuver and keep us all devotion at your knees. Forgetting your coffee, spreading out our flannel, your lipstick grinning on our coat, so gaily in love's unbreakable heaven, our souls on glory of spilt bourbon float. Be with me, darling, early and late, smash glasses, I will study wry music for your sake. For should your hands drop white and empty, all the toys of the world would break. I think we can admit that that is charming. It's not quite Hallmark. It's a rung or two above doggerel. It's quite charming. The narrator of the poem is both lamenting and celebrating the object of the poem, who is physically clumsy, except when needed. When the object of the poem is needed, when grace and hospitality are needed, well, and suddenly they are there in abundance. No one can argue with that. It's the glasses, the vases, the plates. It's those things that are going to come to ruin, not the important kinds of salvaging things. That's nice in a way. That is. I've seen it pursued better in other poems, but it's pursued perfectly well here. That dichotomy between the social graces, the social kind of grace and maneuverability, and the things that count. It's nice that the narrator of the poem never loses sight of that, and something of the narrator's wry affection for the object of the poem comes through loud and clear. The narrator has no illusions, knows perfectly well that the object of the poem is a catastrophe when it comes to, well, the cliche is a bull in a china shop. Like most people, Nims seems to think that if you want to invoke a cliche, but you don't want to be accused of using cliches, all you have to do is change a word or two in the cliche. That's not true. That's not true. A cliche is not cliched thinking. It's the tip of the iceberg of cliched thinking. You have to do it new. You can't just say a bull, what is it? Whose palms are bulls in China. No, that doesn't even work. It's bull in a china shop. Shop, not China. There are no bulls in China. China is made of material. It's not made of living livestock animals. There's no way to do it. We've seen this before in earlier poems. There's no way to take a cliche and make it your own. It's a cliche for a reason. It shows lazy things. It is meant to, at the best, telegraph a meaning. But it has no place in any kind of considered writing, whether it's prose or poetry. There's no way to domesticate it. There's no way to change around a little bit of a cliche to make it, oh, that was new. No. But the narrator knows perfectly well that the object of the poem is a bull in a china shop and doesn't care. The love, the affection, the admiration even, I think comes through loud and clear. So that's nice. And I don't mean to be snobby. I'm not saying that when you finish a poem and your response is, oh, that was nice, means it's a bad poem. No, not at all. Not at all. It's just we have climbed the heights. Right? In Poetry Thursday, in this particular melodrama of Poetry Thursday on this channel, we have climbed the heights. So in that context only, the context of those heights, we had one just last week. In the context of those heights, it is possible, and I believe not snobby, to say, oh, it was nice. So that's it for today. We got a nice poem out of it. And I shouldn't complain, because the last half of this year, since you all clamored not only for me to return to Poetry Thursday, but for me to return to this book, that means we're going to go through this. And that means there's going to be week after week after week after week after week after week where no one on earth has ever been able to hear the jumbled cat scratch garbage that we're going to listen to and say, that was nice. So we'll be looking back on, oh, that was nice, with envy in due time. But for now, there's a figure who shouldn't have been in this book. But that's your I don't know what this feature is, but again, I don't know what any feature is on this channel. You people are yelling and screaming for more bag content. So, but we're going to go through this volume, and that is the poem that we're going to do for today. A minor footnote of a figure who is only in here, I am sure, because he had some sort of tutorial or mentor relationship with one of the editors. But that we'll be back next week. Who knows what we'll find next week? I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.